had observed 43 wars in his lifetime. He had watched civilizations rise and fall. He had documented the last moments of species that were now nothing but dust in the galactic archives. His people, the never fought. They only watched and recorded. That was their purpose in the universe. This time, he was assigned to watch the humans. The observation ship drifted silently near the human fleet command center. Through the viewing port, could see dozens of human warships arranged in formation. They looked small compared to the massive vessels of other species. The humans had only been part of the Galactic Council for 20 standard cycles. They were newcomers, young, inexperienced. And now they were going to die. The Dominion was coming. The race had destroyed 17 civilizations in the past 100 cycles. They moved like a plague across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. The Council had tried to stop them, failed every time. Now they were heading toward human space, and everyone knew what would happen next. Entered the human command center with his recording equipment. The room was busy with activity. Officers moved between stations, their voices calm and controlled. Screens showed star maps and ship positions. Everything looked orderly, professional. Admiral stood at the central console. He was a tall human with gray hair and dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. When approached, the Admiral nodded in greeting. "Observer, welcome aboard." "Thank you, Admiral. I am here to document your fleet's actions during the coming conflict." "Of course," gestured to a chair. "You'll have full access to our operations. We have nothing to hide." Studied the Admiral's face. There was no fear there, no panic. Every other species he had documented showed terror when facing the had begged for mercy, the had tried to flee, the had simply given up. But this human looked calm. "Admiral, do you understand the situation? The fleet outnumbers you 5-1. They have superior firepower. They have never been defeated." Smiled slightly. "I'm aware of the odds, Observer." "Then you know you cannot win." "I know the odds are bad. That's different from saying we can't win." Before could respond, a woman approached. She wore the uniform of a commander and her eyes were sharp and focused. "Admiral, the latest scans are ready." "Thank you." Pulled up a holographic display. It showed the fleet approaching from the outer rim. Hundreds of red dots moving toward the blue dots that represented human ships. Commander pointed to several locations on the map. "They're using standard formation. Heavy carriers in the center, destroyers on the flanks. They expect us to defend our colony worlds." "Which is exactly what we're going to do," said. Moved closer to the display. "Standard galactic doctrine would suggest you fall back to Earth, consolidate your forces, protect your home world." "We have 4 colony worlds between here and Earth," said. 3 million people living on those worlds. We're not abandoning them. They will die anyway when they arrive." Turned to look at. The Admiral's expression had changed. There was something hard in his eyes now, something dangerous. "Observer, let me explain something about humans. We don't abandon our people. We don't leave anyone behind. Those 3 million civilians trust us to protect them, so that's what we're going to do. Even if it means losing your entire fleet." Even then. Made notes on his recording device. This was interesting. The humans were choosing certain death instead of strategic retreat. It made no logical sense. Over the next several hours, watched the humans prepare. They moved with efficiency that surprised him. Every officer knew their job. Every system was checked and rechecked. There was no chaos, no confusion. He spoke with several crew members. A young pilot named Jin explained the weapons systems. An engineer called One showed him the engine room. Each human he met shared the same strange quality. They were not afraid. "Don't you fear death?" asked One as they stood near the massive reactor core. The engineer shrugged. "Of course I do. Everyone fears death, but fear doesn't change what needs to be done. Your people could surrender. They might show mercy. One laughed. It was not a happy sound. The Don't Do Mercy observer, we've read the reports. We know what they do to species that surrender. At least if we fight, we die on our feet. That evening, they sent their message. It appeared on every screen in the fleet. A massive face filled the display, mandibles clicking as it spoke in the common galactic language. Humans, you will surrender your worlds. You will provide resources and population for harvest. Resistance is futile. You have one standard cycle to comply. The message ended. Silence filled the command center. Admiral walked to the communications console. Open a channel. Send this to the fleet. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Looked directly into the camera. His voice was steady and clear. This is Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your demand for surrender. Our response is simple, no. If you want our worlds, come and take them. We'll be waiting. He cut the transmission. Commander Ah smiled. That should get their attention. Indeed it will, turned to his officers. All ships to battle stations. Prepare for combat operations. This is not a drill. Alarms sounded throughout the fleet, watched as humans rushed to their positions. There was no panic, no hesitation. They moved like they had trained for this their entire lives. Perhaps they had studied human history during his journey to their fleet. What he found disturbed him. Humans had spent most of their existence fighting each other, wars that lasted years, conflicts that killed millions. They had invented weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. And somehow they had survived. Now they were bringing all that experience to bear against them. As settled into his observation station, he wondered if they knew what they were about to face. The race had fought many species. They had crushed peaceful civilizations and militant ones alike. But they had never fought humans before. Admiral stood at the center of his command deck, watching the displays. The fleet was 3 cycles away, 3 cycles until contact, 3 cycles until war. Activated his recording equipment. The documentation had begun. He did not know it yet, but he was about to witness something that would change the galaxy forever. He was about to learn why, in a universe full of wonders and terrors, nothing was quite as dangerous as a human who had decided to fight. The observation had begun. The war was coming. And would watch it all. The armada arrived exactly when predicted. Watched from the observation deck as hundreds of enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They filled the space around the Arcturus system like a swarm of metal insects. The human fleet looked tiny in comparison. All ships, this is Admiral, hold your positions. Wait for my command. The Admiral's voice was calm over the communication channel. Checked his instruments. They outnumbered the humans badly. Any reasonable commander would retreat, preserve their forces, live to fight another day. But Admiral did not give the order to retreat. Instead, something else happened. Something had never seen in all his years of observation. The human ships moved forward. All vessels advanced to engagement range, attack formation Delta. Gripped his recording device. Admiral, what are you doing? Standard doctrine says to maintain defensive positions. Commander Ah glanced at him. We're not here to defend, observer. We're here to hurt them. The human fleet accelerated toward every ship, every fighter. They rushed straight at an enemy that outnumbered them 5-1. They seemed confused at first. Their formation hesitated. In all their conquests, prey had never charged at them before. Then the shooting started. Captain 1 commanded the vanguard. Her cruiser, the Indomitable, led 12 other ships directly at the center. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked across space. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. They fired back. Their weapons were powerful. A beam struck the Indomitable, tearing through its armor. Alarms screamed on every channel. Captain 1, your ship is critically damaged, Commander Ah reported. You need to fall back. One's voice came through the static. Negative, all power to forward weapons. I'm not done yet. Watched in horror as the Indomitable continued forward despite the damage. Fire vented from its hull. Half its weapons were offline. It should have been retreating. Instead, it accelerated. "Captain, what are you doing?" Admiral asked. "What needs to be done, sir? All crew evacuate to the escape pods. You have 30 seconds. Understood what was about to happen. She's going to ram them. Yes, Ah said simply. The Indomitable's crew abandoned ship. Dozens of small pods launched from the dying cruiser. And then, with its captain still at the helm, the warship slammed into a destroyer at full speed. The explosion was massive. Both ships disintegrated. Debris scattered across kilometers of space. "Rescue crews, recover those pods," ordered, "and someone tell me one made it out." "She did, sir. Her pod launched at the last second." "Good. Mark her for a commendation when this is over." When this is over, as if there was any doubt they would survive. The battle raged for hours, had documented many conflicts but never anything like this. The humans fought with a ferocity that logic. When their shields failed, they kept fighting. When their weapons were damaged, they used what remained. When their ships were crippled, they rammed the enemy. They traded losses like no species had ever seen. A human destroyer took fire from 3 ships. Its captain, a man named Min, coordinated with 2 other vessels. All 3 human ships focused on a single carrier. They poured everything they had into it: missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds. The carrier exploded, but so did 2 of the human destroyers. "Acceptable losses," Commander An noted, marking it on her tactical display. "Acceptable. They called the death of thousands acceptable." A wing of fighters led by Major Jin attacked a command ship. The enemy point defense systems destroyed half the fighters in seconds, but the survivors kept coming. They flew through the defensive fire like they were immortal. Jin's voice crackled over the radio. "All wings, focus fire on the bridge section. Don't let up." The fighters swarmed the massive ship. Several were shot down. Others crashed into the hull deliberately, their explosions tearing holes in the armor. Jin herself guided her damaged fighter straight into the bridge. The command ship went dark. "Major Jin is gone," an officer reported quietly. Admiral closed his eyes for a moment, just a moment. Then he opened them and continued giving orders. Made notes with shaking hands. The humans were losing ships at a terrible rate, but they were losing more, much more. The race was discovering something they had never encountered before, an enemy that simply did not care about the cost. After 6 hours of combat, they began to pull back. Could not believe what his instruments were telling him. They're retreating. "No," Ah corrected. "They're regrouping, they'll be back." The human fleet held position. Of the 96 ships they had started with, only 67 remained. 39 vessels destroyed, thousands dead. The survivors were damaged and exhausted. But they had held the line. They had lost more than 200 ships. Their advance had been stopped. Moved through the command center in a daze. Humans worked at their stations, processing damage reports and casualty lists. Their faces were grim but determined. He found Admiral standing alone, looking at a display showing the names of the dead. The list was long, too long. "Admiral, I do not understand. You lost 30 ships, 12,000 lives. Was it worth it?" Did not look at him. His eyes remained on the names scrolling past. "We held the line, observer. They expected to break through in hours. We stopped them for an entire day. That gives Earth time to prepare, time to build more ships, time to evacuate civilians from the outer colonies. But the cost? The cost is always high in war." Finally turned to face him. "Every name on that list represents a person, someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. I will carry those names with me for the rest of my life." Then why fight? Why not negotiate? Why not seek peace? Because they don't want peace. They want conquest. And if we don't stop them here, they'll reach Earth. 3 billion humans live on our home world, Observer. If I have to sacrifice 12,000 to save 3 billion, I'll make that trade every single time. Made more notes. The humans calculated cost differently than any species he had studied. They thought in terms of acceptable sacrifices, necessary deaths, the math of survival. Commander Ah approached with a data pad. Sir, the projections are ready. Based on current losses, we can hold them for 2 more engagements. 3 if we get reinforcements from the Second Fleet. And if we don't get reinforcements, 2 engagements. Then we won't have enough ships to maintain the defensive line. So we make them count. Took the data pad. What's the status on repairs? Engineering crews are working around the clock. We'll have 40 ships back to combat ready in 12 hours. The rest need more time. They don't have more time. Patch what you can. They will be back soon. An nodded and walked away. Returned to studying the casualty reports. Watched him for a long moment. Then he returned to his observation station and began reviewing the footage he had captured. Frame by frame, he watched humans die. He watched them charge into impossible odds, watched them sacrifice themselves without hesitation. And he began to understand something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The galaxy had assumed humans were like every other species, that they valued survival above all else, that they would surrender when faced with extinction. But the galaxy was wrong. Humans did value survival, but they valued it in a different way. They would not survive by surrendering. They would survive by making the enemy pay such a terrible price that conquest became impossible. Saved his recordings and prepared his preliminary report for the Galactic Council. He knew they would not believe what he was about to tell them. They had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed humans were prey. But humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. Traveled to Earth on a diplomatic transport. The Galactic Council wanted his observations from the surface. They needed to understand what made humans fight so differently from every other species. Ambassador Rim met him at the orbital station. She was a diplomatic official, elegant and professional. She greeted with the formal gestures required by protocol. Observer, welcome to Earth. I hope your journey was comfortable. It was adequate, Ambassador. Thank you for agreeing to this visit. Of course, the Council has questions. We will do our best to answer them. She gestured toward a shuttle. Please come with me. I want to show you something. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, looked out the window at the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents. White clouds drifting across the surface. It looked peaceful. But it was not peaceful. As they flew over a major city, saw the changes. Every factory was working. Smoke rose from industrial complexes that ran without stopping. The streets were full of vehicles moving supplies. The entire city seemed to be in motion. What happened here? Asked. War, Rim said simply. When they invaded, our governments made a decision. Every resource would go to the war effort. Every factory would produce weapons or ships or supplies. Every person would contribute. The shuttle landed at a massive industrial facility. Rim led inside. The noise was incredible. Machines hammered and welded. Assembly lines moved without stopping. Thousands of humans worked in coordinated chaos. A man in a military uniform approached. He saluted Ambassador Rim and then turned to Observer, I'm Lieutenant Jin. I used to be an engineer at a civilian manufacturing plant. Now I oversee weapons production. How long have you been doing this? Asked. 3 weeks. We converted the entire facility in 5 days. Stared at the assembly lines. This was not a military factory. No, we made transportation vehicles. Now we make missiles. Jin gestured at the production floor. Every line runs 26 hours a day. But a day on Earth is only 24 hours. Correct, we use overlapping shifts. The machines never stop. Workers rotate in and out. Production is continuous. Made notes on his device. How many facilities like this exist? On Earth, about 40,000 have been converted so far. The colonies have another 10,000. We're adding more every day. The numbers were staggering. Had observed industrial mobilization before, but never anything this comprehensive. The humans had transformed their entire civilization into a war machine in a matter of weeks. Rim led him to another section of the city. Here, humans stood in long lines outside government buildings. Thousands of them, all ages, all backgrounds. "What are they doing?" asked. "Volunteering for military service," Rim explained. "We put out a call for recruits. We needed 50,000 new soldiers. 3 million people showed up in the first week." 3 million? Yes, we had to turn most of them away. We don't have enough training facilities. A young woman approached from the line. Her name tag read Nayung. She looked tired but determined. "Ambassador Rim, I've been in this line for 6 hours. They keep saying there's no space in the next training class. When can I enlist?" Rim smiled gently. "What do you do for work, Nayung?" "I'm a teacher, elementary school. But the schools are closed for the duration of the war, so I want to help." "Teachers are essential personnel. We need people to educate our children when this is over." Nayung shook her head. "There won't be children to teach if we lose. I can fight. Please let me fight." Rim sighed. "Report to the training center tomorrow morning. Ask for Colonel Sung-ho. Tell him I sent you." The young woman's face lit up. "Thank you, Ambassador. I won't let you down." As Nayung walked away, turned to Rim. "You just sent a teacher to war." "I sent a volunteer to serve her people. She made her choice." That evening attended a government assembly. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in a massive hall. Before the war, these nations had been rivals. Some had been enemies. Now they sat together, discussing strategy and resources. The meeting was efficient. No arguments, no politics. Every decision was made based on a single question: would it help win the war? After the meeting, spoke with Rim in private. "I do not understand. Your nations have fought each other throughout your history. Some of your wars lasted decades. How did you unify so quickly?" Rim was quiet for a moment. Then she accessed a data terminal and pulled up files. "Let me show you something, observer. This is from our 20th century. We call it World War II." Read the statistics. His hands trembled. 70 million dead in 6 years. That was us fighting ourselves. Half the planet against the other half. Cities destroyed. Entire populations murdered. We nearly destroyed our civilization. She pulled up more files. And here, the Cold War. 2 human factions built enough nuclear weapons to sterilize the planet dozens of times over. We lived under the threat of total extinction for 50 years. Why did you not destroy yourselves? We came close, many times, but we learned something important, observer. We learned what we're capable of. We learned how to make war on a scale that terrifies even us. Rim closed the files. So when they threatened everything we had built, every nation on Earth remembered those lessons. We remembered what happens when we turn our weapons on each other, and we decided to turn them outward instead. The next day visited an orbital defense platform. Colonel Sung-ho gave him the tour. The station bristled with weapons, missile batteries, energy cannons. Every surface seemed designed to kill. "We had 30 of these stations before the war," Sung-ho explained. "Now we have 300. We're building more every day." "How is that possible?" "We converted mining stations, habitat modules, research facilities. If it can hold a weapon, we put a weapon on it." Sung-ho pointed to a docking bay. "See those civilian freighters? They're armed now. Every ship in the system is part of our defense grid." watched as a mining drone flew past. It had missiles attached to its hull. "You've weaponized everything. We don't have the luxury of keeping things separate, observer. They are coming with their full might, so we use everything we have." That night could not sleep. He reviewed his notes and recordings. He tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The humans had not just prepared for war. They had transformed war into an art form. Every aspect of their society had been reorganized around a single purpose: survival through victory. He thought about the other species that had conquered. They had been peaceful. They had no military tradition. When war came, they had no idea how to fight. They had been traders. They thought they could buy their way out of conquest. They were wrong. They had been scientists. They tried to reason with to negotiate, to find a logical solution. But humans were different. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting. War was not foreign to them. It was familiar, comfortable. They knew how to fight because they had never stopped fighting. And now they were fighting for their very existence. Accessed his communication device and sent a priority message to the Galactic Council. "The human mobilization is unlike anything I have observed. They are not preparing to defend. They are preparing to win. Every resource, every person, every moment is dedicated to the war effort. I believe the Council has underestimated this species." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "They have destroyed 17 civilizations, but those civilizations had no experience with total war. Humans have practiced total war against themselves they may have made a critical error in judgment." He sent the message and returned to his window. Below, Earth glowed with the lights of billions of people, all of them working, preparing, building. They were coming with 3,000 warships, the largest invasion force in galactic history. Wondered if it would be enough. The armada appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark wave of death. 3,000 warships, the largest invasion force ever assembled. They had come to end humanity once and for all. Stood on Admiral's flagship watching the displays. The human fleet had 800 ships against 3,000. The mathematics were simple and brutal. "All stations, this is Admiral, the enemy has arrived. This is what we've prepared for. This is why we've trained and built and sacrificed. Today we defend Earth. Today we defend humanity. Make every shot count." The response came from every ship in the fleet, every station, every platform, thousands of voices speaking as one. "For Earth." Commander Ah stood beside the Admiral. Her face was calm as she reviewed the tactical display. "Sir, they're dividing into 3 attack groups, one for each major approach vector. Expected, they want to spread our defenses thin." Touched controls on his console. "Activate protocol last stand." Had heard about this protocol. Every human in the system knew what it meant. No retreat, no surrender, fight until victory or death. The space around Earth filled with human vessels, warships and cargo haulers and mining craft, everything that could fly and carry a weapon. The orbital platforms powered up their guns. The moon's surface revealed hidden missile batteries. Mars Station opened launch bays that had been secretly constructed. "My people do not do anything halfway," Rim had told. Now he understood what she meant. The battle began with a wave of missiles from both sides, thousands of them. The space between the fleets became a maze of explosions and debris. Point defense systems shot down what they could. The rest hit their targets. A human cruiser exploded, then another. The lost destroyers and frigates. The exchange was brutal and immediate. "All fighter wings engage," ordered. Major Jin had died in the first battle. Her replacement was a pilot named Bora. She led 300 fighters straight into the formation. "This is Wing Leader Bora. All units follow my lead. We're going for their carriers." Watched as the tiny fighters dodged through the massive warships. Point defense systems tore through them. Explosions lit up the darkness. But the survivors kept going, always forward, never back. Bora's fighter took a hit. Half her wing was gone. She adjusted course and kept flying. Bora, you're outnumbered. Pull back, ordered. Negative, sir. We're almost there. 20 fighters reached a carrier. They fired everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons. One pilot flew his damaged fighter straight into the hangar bay. The carrier's fuel reserves ignited. The explosion could be seen from Earth's surface. Wing leader Bora is down, an officer reported. His jaw tightened, but he kept giving orders. There was no time to mourn, not yet. Near Mars, Captain Min commanded a destroyer squadron, 12 ships facing a battle group of 40. The mathematics said they should retreat. Instead, Min found a narrow passage between two asteroids. He positioned his ships there and waited. Hold your fire, let them come to us. They moved into the passage. Min waited until they were committed. Then he gave the order. All ships fire. The destroyers unleashed everything at point-blank range. In the confined space, they could not maneuver, could not dodge. The human ships poured fire into them without mercy. But they fired back. One human destroyer exploded, then another, then 3 more. Sir, we've lost half the squadron, Min's tactical officer reported. Then we make them count double, keep firing. In the end, Min's squadron was destroyed, all 12 ships, but they took 37 vessels with them. On Earth's surface, they broke through the orbital defenses in 3 locations. Drop pods fell through the atmosphere like metal rain. They crashed into cities and farmland. Soldiers emerged and began their assault. They expected panic, fleeing civilians, easy conquest. Instead, they found humans with guns. Na-young, the teacher who had volunteered, stood with her militia unit in a small town. She had been training for 3 weeks, not long, but long enough to shoot straight. They came through the town center, 20 of them. Each stood 3 meters tall with armored exoskeletons and plasma weapons. Na-young's unit had 30 humans with rifles and improvised explosives. Remember your training, their commander said. Aim for the joints. The armor is weaker there. The fighting was close and brutal. They killed 5 humans in the first minute, but the humans adapted. They used the buildings for cover, attacked from multiple angles, used the environment against the larger enemies. Na-young shot a soldier twice before it went down. Her hands shook, her heart pounded, but she kept fighting. In a factory on the other side of the planet, workers grabbed whatever weapons they could find. Welding torches, industrial cutting tools, heavy machinery. A man named One led his fellow workers against a squad. They were not soldiers. They were factory workers and engineers, but they fought like their lives depended on it. Because their lives did depend on it. Use the crane, One shouted. A massive industrial crane swung down and crushed 2 soldiers. Another worker activated a furnace, and superheated metal poured onto the invaders. They had never encountered resistance like this. Every human was a fighter. Children threw rocks. Elderly people used hunting rifles. Scientists deployed experimental weapons. Entire cities became. In orbit, Admiral watched the tactical display with growing concern. They were breaking through. Too many ships, too many soldiers. Sir, we're losing ground everywhere, Commander Ah reported. Her voice remained professional despite the dire situation. Studied the display. He saw the command ships at the center of their formation, massive vessels protected by hundreds of escorts. Ah, prepare the final option. She looked at him. Sir, that's 16 ships, their crews. I know, ask for volunteers. Within minutes, 16 damaged human warships changed course. Their crews evacuated to escape pods, but the captains remained at their posts. This is Captain Min of the Valiant. I'm ready. Captain Ho Jin of the Defiant. Ready. Captain of the Relentless. Ready. One by one, the captains reported in. 16 voices, 16 people willing to die for their species. "Thank you," said quietly, "Godspeed." The 16 ships accelerated, not toward the fleet, toward the speed of light. Understood immediately. They're using relativistic weapons. Yes, Ah confirmed. The physics were simple. As an object approached light speed, its mass increased dramatically. A ship moving at 99% of light speed became a weapon of unimaginable power. They tried to intercept them, fired everything they had, destroyed 3 of the ships before they could reach full speed. But 13 made it through. The impacts were catastrophic. Each ship hit with the force of a nuclear weapon. Command vessels disintegrated. The explosions created shockwaves that destroyed dozens of surrounding ships. In seconds, the center of the formation simply ceased to exist. "Direct hit on all primary targets," an officer reported. The fleet began to fall apart. Without their command structure, the individual ships did not know how to coordinate. They had never needed to think for themselves. The hive mind that controlled them was gone. Human ships pressed the advantage. Every vessel, every platform, they poured fire into the confused enemy. They began to retreat. It took hours for to believe what he was seeing. The Dominion, the species that had destroyed 17 civilizations, they were running. "All ships pursue and engage," ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The battle continued for another day. The humans showed no mercy. They had seen what they did to conquered worlds. They knew what would happen if they lost. So they did not lose. When it finally ended, the space around Earth was filled with debris. Dead ships drifted in the void, human and alike. The human fleet had lost 320 ships. Millions were dead. Cities on Earth lay in ruins. But they were gone, defeated, broken. Walked through the command center in a daze. Humans worked at their stations, exhausted but alive. Some were crying. Others sat in silence. All of them had survived. Outside the windows, rescue ships moved through the debris field, searching for survivors, recovering bodies, the work of aftermath. Admiral stood alone, looking at the casualty lists. The numbers were staggering. Approached him. "Admiral, you won." "Did we?" Gestured at the display. "Look at the cost. Look at what we paid." "You survived." "They did not." "No, we paid a terrible price for survival, and I gave the orders that demanded that price." Turn 2. "Do you understand what we are now, observer? We are the species that will do anything to survive, anything at all." Did understand, and it terrified him. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as presented his findings. Representatives from 40 species sat in a massive circular room, all of them watching the observer's presentation. Had spent weeks preparing his report. He had reviewed thousands of hours of footage, analyzed every battle, interviewed hundreds of humans. Now he would share what he had learned. "Honored council members, I have completed my observation of the human conflict with the Dominion. What I witnessed has changed my understanding of warfare and of humanity itself." He activated the holographic display. Images appeared above the council floor. Human ships charging into battle, soldiers fighting in cities, civilians taking up arms. The Dominion has destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century. Each of those species followed standard galactic protocols. They defended their worlds. They negotiated when possible. They surrendered when defeat was certain. Paused and looked around the chamber. Humans did none of these things. They fought from the first moment. They never considered surrender, and they won. Counselor Al, a representative from a peaceful trading species, spoke up. "Observer, surely the humans simply got lucky. They have never been defeated before." "It was not luck, Counselor." Showed footage of Captain One ramming her ship, of Major Jin's final charge, of Nuyung fighting soldiers in her small town. The humans won because they were willing to pay any price for survival. They sacrificed ships, soldiers, even civilians without hesitation. They transformed their entire civilization into a weapon in a matter of weeks. Another counselor raised an objection. This is desperation, not strategy. They had nowhere to retreat. Shook his head. I thought the same thing, so I studied their history. New images appeared. Cities destroyed by atomic weapons, trenches filled with soldiers in ancient wars, armies numbering in the millions. Before humans reached the stars, they fought each other. Constantly. Their largest war killed 70 million of their own kind. They invented weapons capable of destroying their planet. They lived under the threat of extinction for decades. The council chamber filled with shocked whispers. They did this to themselves, Al asked. Why did they not destroy each other? Because they learned control. They learned when to stop, but they never forgot how to fight, displayed statistics from the human war machine. In 3 weeks, humans converted 40,000 civilian facilities to weapons production. 3 million civilians volunteered for military service. Every nation on their planet unified without argument. He showed footage of the final battle, the relativistic attacks, the civilian resistance, the absolute refusal to surrender. They expected humans to behave like every other species, to fear death, to choose survival over victory, but humans choose survival through victory. They fight not just to win but to make losing impossible. Turned off the display and faced the council directly. I have a recommendation. Humanity should be welcomed as full allies of the Galactic Council, because no species in this galaxy wants to face them as enemies. The council erupted in debate. Some agreed, others argued. The discussion went on for hours. Finally, the council leader called for silence. Observer, the council accepts your recommendation. We will extend full alliance status to humanity, and we will invite them to contribute forces to the council defense fleet. It was done. Humanity would join the galactic community not as newcomers but as equals. Later, met with Ambassador Rim in a private chamber. She had traveled to the council station for the formal ceremonies. Congratulations, Ambassador. Your species has been accepted. Rim smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. Thank you, Observer, though I suspect the council's decision came from fear more than friendship. Perhaps does that bother you? Yes and no. Rim sat down and joined her. We did not want to be feared. We wanted to be understood, but fear will serve the same purpose. Which is keeping us safe. No one will threaten Earth now, not after what we did to the... Considered this. Ambassador, I must ask you something. Did you know that defeating the would make the galaxy fear you? Rim was quiet for a long moment. We knew what we were capable of, Observer. We've seen ourselves at our worst. We know what happens when humans go to war without limits. It terrifies us. Then why do it? Because the alternative was extinction. Rim looked at him with those human eyes that seemed to hold such depth. You asked me once if our capacity for violence frightens us. It does. Every day. We carry the weight of our history. We remember what we've done to each other. She stood and walked to the viewing port. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue sphere slowly healing from its wounds. But we also know that fear does not stop us. It never has. When someone threatens everything we love, we become the thing we fear most. We become war itself. Joined her at the window. The council is afraid of you now. I know, but they're also safer. They will not invade council space again. Other threats will think twice before attacking. Fear keeps people alive, Observer, even if it's not the way we would have chosen. Over the following months, watched as humans integrated into the galactic military structure. Admiral was appointed to command a joint council fleet. Commander Ah trained other species in human tactical doctrine. Captain One, who had survived her suicide ram, became an instructor at the Galactic Military Academy. The changes were profound. Where once the council defended passively, human commanders taught aggressive tactics, where once they accepted losses, humans taught them to make the enemy pay. Where once they sought peaceful solutions, humans taught them when peace was no longer an option. And the galaxy became safer for it. 5 cycles after the war, attended a council military exercise. Admiral commanded a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels against a simulated invasion force. The simulation represented a scenario based on historical tactics. The council forces were outnumbered 3-1. Under traditional command, the exercise would end in defeat. The defending fleet would lose 70% of its ships before retreating. Under command, the outcome was different. The admiral used human tactics, aggressive positioning, calculated risks, acceptable losses that led to unacceptable enemy casualties. The defending fleet lost 40% of its ships. The simulated enemy was completely destroyed. After the exercise, spoke with privately. Admiral, your tactics worked perfectly, but I noticed something. The other species in your fleet hesitated. They're not comfortable with your level of aggression. Nodded, I know, they'll learn or they'll die. Those are the only 2 options in war. That seems harsh. War is harsh, observer. It doesn't care about comfort or preference. It only cares about results. Pulled up tactical displays. I'm teaching them what humans learned over of conflict, how to win, how to survive, how to make the enemy regret starting the fight. And if they cannot learn, then humans will protect them. That's what allies do. Returned to his quarters and began writing his final report, the comprehensive document that would be archived in the galactic records, the analysis that future historians would study. He titled it, Species Assessment, Humanity: A Study in Survival Through Superior Violence. In the report, he detailed everything he had witnessed, the battles, the sacrifices, the transformation of an entire species into a weapon when threatened. His conclusion was simple but profound. Humanity should be welcomed as allies, for no species wishes to face them as enemies. They possess no natural weapons, no particular physical advantages, no special abilities beyond what evolution provided. What they have is infinitely more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept defeat and the capacity to transform their entire civilization into an instrument of war when survival demands it. The Dominion learned this truth at terrible cost. The galaxy should remember it. Humans value peace. They treasure life. They seek harmony and cooperation. But when these things are threatened, they become something else entirely. They become the universe's most efficient killers. And they do it without hesitation, without doubt, without mercy. This is what makes them terrifying. Not their weapons or ships, not their tactics or strategies, but their willingness to become monsters to protect what they love. I recommend that humanity be given full status in all galactic institutions. I recommend that human military doctrine be studied and adopted. And I recommend that all species remember what happens when you threaten a species that has survived by learning to perfect war. They survive, and you do not. Filed his report and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the galactic borders. Human soldiers trained for the next conflict. Human engineers built new weapons. Not because they wanted war, but because they understood that peace only exists when those who love it are willing to fight for it. And humans were very, very willing to fight. The galaxy had learned to fear them, but it had also learned to respect them, and in time, perhaps fear would turn to trust. But would never forget what he had witnessed. He had watched humans march into war against impossible odds. He had seen them pay the price in blood and sacrifice. And he had learned why the universe fears them. Because when humanity goes to war, they do not fight to win. They fight to make losing impossible. And nothing in the universe can stand against that kind of determination.